The knock came just as I settled into the water. 3 short, raps sharp, impatient. I'd just started my first Saturday off in weeks, the pool perfectly clear, sunlight cutting diamonds across the surface. Then came the voice. "Excuse me, sir. You can't be in there without authorization." I blinked up through the glare. There she was, Curran Holloway, HOA president, standing at the edge of my driveway like a traffic warden, clipboard in hand, floral sun hat, and that unmistakable air of someone who thinks she runs the block. I said evenly, "Karen, this is my backyard. You're leaning on my fence." Her lips tightened. "Actually," she said, tapping her clipboard. "According to Section 4A of the HOA covenant, the community pool is not for personal use." I just stared at her. "You mean this pool?" I pointed to the one 10 feet behind my sliding door, surrounded by the privacy fence I'd built and paid for. "Karen, that's my pool. It's on my deed." She squinted, scanning her notes like a prosecutor caught off script. "Well, it's adjacent to the easement. So technically there's no technically," I said. "You can see the survey pins if you'd like. They're not moving." Karen pursed her lips, pulled out her phone, and took a picture anyway. "We'll see what the board says." Then she marched off, muttering something about violations. I thought that was the end of it. But 3 days later, I came home to find a bright yellow HOA citation taped to my door. Unauthorized installation of a pool on common property. Immediate removal required. I laughed out loud. Then I saw the fine $1,000. Payable within 14 days. That's when I knew this wasn't just another Karen tantrum. This was a full-blown HOA ambush. By week's end, it escalated. Karen began showing up with a committee of clipboard carriers, walking along my fence line, pointing, whispering. I'd hear the latch rattle sometimes, people testing it. I started keeping my doorbell cam armed full-time. One morning, I caught her on camera, leaning over the fence, photographing my filter system. I stepped out calmly, coffee in hand. "Karen," I said, "that's trespassing." She didn't even flinch. "I'm documenting HOA violations for the record." "Document this," I said, and held up my phone. "Still recording." Her eyes flickered when she realized it was live streaming to the neighborhood Facebook page. She turned and stormed off. 2 hours later, an email hit my inbox. Subject line, "Cease and desist, use of pool." I opened it. Formal language, HOA, letterhead, and her digital signature. The kicker, failure to comply, will result in law enforcement involvement. That line made me smile. I replied with one sentence. "You might want to check the plat map first." That night, I went digging, pulled my closing documents, the county plat map, and my original survey. Every inch of that pool sat squarely within my lot lines, 3 feet clear of any easement. I scanned it, timestamped it, and attached it to an email addressed to the entire HOA board. No emotion, just facts. For your records, attached is the legal plat confirming ownership. Any further trespass will be reported to the sheriff's office. I sent it at 10:47 p.m. and slept better than I had in weeks. But the calm didn't last. 2 days later, while skimming leaves off the pool, I heard tires on gravel. A sheriff's cruiser rolled up slow, lights flashing but siren off. "Morning." "Deputy," I said, towel over my shoulder. He stepped out, glanced at a notepad. "We got a call about an unauthorized person using the HOA pool." I nearly laughed. "You're looking at the homeowner, deputy. Want to see the deed?" He hesitated. "You're saying this isn't community property?" I handed him the folder I'd already prepared: survey, deed, county assessor printout. He flipped through it, whistled low. "Looks pretty clear to me." He looked back toward the cul-de-sac, where Karen was standing at the curb, arms folded, watching. "Mind if I talk to her?" he asked. "Please do," I said. The deputy walked off. From where I stood, I could see Karen gesturing wildly, pointing at my house, my pool, even at me. The deputy's body language stayed calm, one hand on his belt, the other jotting notes. After 5 minutes, she deflated, shoulders down, lips pressed tight. He came back, handed me his card. "You're good, sir. She's been advised about misuse of 911 for non-criminal disputes. Have a nice swim." I gave him a nod. "You too, deputy." The cruiser rolled off. Karen stomped home, her committee trailing behind like scolded pigeons. But I knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to admit defeat. And something about the way she'd said, "We'll see what the board says," still echoed in my head. Because if there's one thing HOA bullies hate more than being wrong, it's being proven wrong in public. By Monday morning, the neighborhood group chat was on fire. Someone had clipped the deputy's body cam footage, Karen pointing, shouting, and me calmly handing over my deed. It had spread faster than chlorine in hot water. Karen's allies started peeling off, one by one. A few even apologized privately. But the HOA itself, silent. No apology. No retraction. Instead, a week later, I got another letter, this time from the HOA's compliance committee. It demanded that I cease obstruction of community access to common amenities. In other words, Karen was doubling down. That's when I decided to stop playing defense. If she wanted a paper war, I'd bury her in proof. Step 1. Establish evidence chain. I printed the full plat map from the county GIS website, highlighting my property lines in blue. Then I pulled the original HOA bylaws digitized from the 1997 incorporation filing. I cross-referenced Section 4A, the same one Karen had quoted. It clearly applied to the shared recreation center 2 blocks away, not private lots. So I made copies, 12 total, with sticky notes, citing page numbers and section titles. I didn't send them. Not yet. Step 2. Document harassment. My ring cam had captured every uninvited visit, Karen peering over my fence, her committee snapping photos, even one of them reaching through the gate latch. I compiled it all into a folder labeled Trespass, Evidence Chronological. Each clip got a timestamp overlay and a written log. Then came Step 3, Expert Allies. I called to people. A real estate attorney named Sandra Lee, who specialized in HOA overreach. Second, a licensed surveyor named Blake Morton, who'd mapped half the county's developments. Sandra met me at her office, a quiet suite above a title company. She reviewed the citations and shook her head. "They're bluffing," she said. "They have no jurisdiction over your pool, but the moment you pay a fine or sign anything, you validate the claim, so don't engage directly." She drafted a short letter for me, sharp and surgical. "To whom it may concern. The structure in question lies entirely within private property as defined in County Plat Map, #A11247. Any further correspondence implying common ownership constitutes defamation and harassment under State Civil Code Section 47 to 230. Then she added, "And we'll see the county recorder and sheriff. Karen's about to have a very quiet month." The next afternoon, Blake showed up with his tripod and orange stakes. He ran a laser along my fence, dropped new pins, and printed a high-resolution topographic map right there from his truck printer. "This line here," he said, tracing the red boundary, "is your absolute property limit. The HOA easement ends a full 3 feet before your fence." "Perfect," I said. "Let's notarize that." We did same day. I added it to the file. By that evening, my strategy shifted from defense to deterrence. I sent Sandra's letter to the HOA board CC'd to Karen, the county property assessor, and the sheriff's civil division. No subject line, just the PDF. Within 12 hours, I got a reply from an HOA secretary I'd never met. "The board has received your documentation and is reviewing the matter. Please allow time for internal discussion." Translation: they were panicking. Karen, however, wasn't done performing. At 9 a.m. the next morning, while I was leaving for work, she intercepted me at the mailbox. "You think you can intimidate me with your little lawyer tricks?" she snapped. I looked at her evenly. "Karen, I'm not intimidating anyone. I'm just keeping records." Her nostrils flared. "The board meets Thursday. You'll regret this." "Looking forward to it," I said, sliding my mailbox closed. Thursday came fast. The meeting was in the clubhouse, the so-called community center that actually was HOA property. I brought my binder, my survey, my lawyer's letter, and my phone on record. Karen opened the session like a judge in a bad courtroom drama. "We're here to discuss the unauthorized use of the pool on Lot 47, she said loudly, making sure every neighbor heard. I stood, flipped to my first tab, and said calmly, "Correction, the private pool on lot 47. Then I laid out the documents in order: deed, plat map, notarized survey, HOA, bylaws. The board members leaned in, their expressions shifting from stern to confused to quietly horrified. Section 4A applies to community amenities, I said, tapping the page. Lot 47 is private property. The HOA's attempt to claim ownership is false, defamatory, and per my counsel legally actionable." The treasurer whispered something to the vice chair. Karen's jaw tightened. I added, "Oh. And since the sheriff confirmed misuse of emergency services, I've filed a written statement. That report number's at the top of page 4. Silence. One of the older board members finally cleared his throat. "I think this misunderstanding has gone far enough." Karen started to speak, but the vice chair cut her off. "We'll be rescinding the citation, effective immediately." The gavel dropped. Meeting adjourned, but Karen wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking at the audience neighbors whispering, phones out, cameras rolling. Because sometimes, justice doesn't need a courtroom. It just needs a microphone. 2 weeks after that HOA meeting, things went quiet. Too quiet. Karen stopped her morning patrols. No more clipboard brigade marching past my fence. But the silence felt strategic, like the calm before the next bad idea. I was right. It started on a Sunday afternoon. My neighbor Tom texted me a heads up. "FYI, Karen's telling folks the HOA reclaimed your pool. She's saying the board voted to reallocate it for community use." I almost dropped my coffee. Reclaimed. Within the hour, I checked the HOA portal. Sure enough, a new post said under announcements, "The community pool on lot 47 will reopen next weekend for member access pending inspection." My pool, my lot, my inspection. That's when I knew this wasn't just harassment, it was fraud. I didn't yell, didn't rant. I went procedural. Step 1, call Sandra. She answered on the second ring. "Tell me she didn't." "Oh, she did," I said. "They're calling it a community reopening." Sandra sighed. "All right. Then we'll play it by the book. I'll prep a cease and desist and a trespass warning. But if she tries to hold an event, record everything." Done. I didn't have to wait long, that Saturday morning. A folding table appeared on the sidewalk outside my fence. Balloons, coolers, a pool party. Signs scrawled in bright paint. Karen stood front and center, in a wide-brimmed hat, clipboard in hand, telling parents to line up for wristbands. My camera system caught every second. I stepped outside, calm as ever, wearing sunglasses and holding my phone. "Morning, Karen. You forgot to ask the owner's permission." She barely glanced at me. "This is HOA property, Ryan. The community voted on my deed," I asked. She waved her hand like I was background noise. "Deputies are on their way if you cause a scene." I smiled slightly. "Good. I'll wait for them." 15 minutes later, the same sheriff's cruiser from before rolled in. Deputy Langley stepped out, took one look at the crowd, then at me. "Morning again," he said quietly. "What's this about now?" "Apparently, my backyard's hosting a public event." He looked at the gate padlocked from my side. "You invited them." "Not a single soul." Karen swooped in like she owned the department. "Officer, the HOA has jurisdiction. This pool belongs to the community." Langley raised a hand. "Ma'am, we went through this. We verified property ownership last month." Karen blinked. "That was inconclusive." "No, it was conclusive," he said flatly. "You're organizing people to enter private property without consent. That's trespassing." The murmurs started immediately. Parents backed away from the fence. One woman grabbed her kid's arm and muttered, "Come on, sweetie, let's go." Karen's face went pale, then red. "You can't talk to me like that. I'm the HOA president." Langley pulled out his notepad. "And you're about 2 minutes from a citation for criminal mischief. Want to keep going?" That shut her up. He turned to me. "You pressing charges?" I glanced around at the neighbors, the signs, the cameras blinking red. "Not yet," I said. "But the footage is rolling, and my lawyer's already drafting a restraining order." Langley nodded. "Smart. I'll file an incident report." He escorted Karen to her car, while the crowd quietly dispersed. That night, I posted the full video. Karan's community pool stunt. The deputy's statement, the walk of shame. Within 24 hours, it had 80,000 views on Nextdoor, Facebook, and 3 neighborhood pages. The comments were brutal. Imagine calling the cops on the guy who owns the pool. HOA's about to get sued into the deep end. By Monday morning, Karen had resigned. Officially, it was for personal reasons. Unofficially, it was because Sandra's cease and desist had landed on her desk, alongside the sheriff's trespass report and a pending defamation claim. 2 months later, the HOA sent out a newsletter quietly amending their bylaws, clarifying that private residential pools are not subject to community control. My fine was wiped clean. My legal fees reimbursed. The cherry on top, Karen's replacement, a level-headed accountant named Louis, stopped by one afternoon with a gift basket and a handshake. "We're trying to rebuild trust," he said. "Start with boundaries," I told him, "and keep your bylaws where they belong on paper." He laughed, nodded, and left. Now, every time I swim, I look at the faint outline on the sidewalk where Karen's pool party sign once stood, a reminder of how fast false authority evaporates when truth hits the water. In this neighborhood, everyone learned something that summer. Ownership isn't loud, it's documented. And as for me, I still enjoy my quiet swims. No citations, no cameras, no interruptions. Just sunlight, water, and the calm satisfaction of a man who didn't just win, he proved it. If you've ever had an HOA, try to rewrite your property lines. Drop your story in the comments below. And remember, always know where your survey pins are.